hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and we are getting ready to talk about pro wrestling for another while. Again, today, we are recording this on June 13, 2023. So we're going to be talking about some things that have happened in the wacky world of professional wrestling right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Hey, consider giving a like to the video. Consider subscribing as well. Because look, and you know, same thing if you're listening to this on audio on your favorite audio feed, you know, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things help out a great deal. But let me tell you, I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you this. It's a good time to subscribe to the channels or to the audio feeds. And I'll tell you why. I've got a lot of content coming up. Some content that might interest you. As you know, on top of the podcast that I do every Tuesday, which we record live, by the way, at 7 p.m. Eastern, I also do an AEW Dynamite review, which I record and release on Thursdays, the day after Dynamite. So that always happens on the Thursdays. But this week, Collision is going to be debuting this Saturday, June 17. So I am going to be debuting my own AEW Collision review, which will be just like the Dynamite one, recorded the next day, released on the Sunday. So you want to be around for that as well. But even on top of that, and I'm going to talk about it as well a little later on in the show, but let's get this out of the way from the top of it. G1 season's on the way. You know what your boy's going to be doing? Daily coverage of the G1 33, the G1 Climax 33. Every day, I'm going to be covering the G1 from top to bottom, just like I do every year. But, you know, over the past couple of years, I'd combined 2 days into one review. But now I'm going to do, I'm going to do my best anyway, to do daily reviews. And if you're into that, or you want to be into it, this is the time to subscribe to what I'm doing. This is the time to get into the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. This is what we should do right here. And it is a good idea to do it. You should absolutely do that. Go ahead. Also, what is a good idea for you to do is to seek out the Music of the Mat podcast, which is also available on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. I joined Andrew Rich, the host of the show, to talk about music, pro wrestling themes, not just music in general, but pro wrestling themes specifically. We did what he likes to call a New Japan grab bag, where we talk about a bunch of themes. He pulls up a bunch of themes from New Japan, and we talk about some of the themes and how do they work? Are they good? So on and so forth. So some music reviews, and it was a lot of fun. That's out right now. So once you're done listening to this, I suggest you seek out Music of the Mat. You subscribe to that. Subscribe to the feed on Voices of Wrestling as well. That stuff is fantastic. And it was a good time. And thank you again, Andrew, for having me on the show. It was really, really a good time. I'm also going to be heading over to France virtually this weekend on Sunday. Our good friends over at L'Ariete are putting together a quiz show, a first annual, like a super quiz event. And they've invited me to do wrestling trivia. I'm going to stink at it, but it's going to be a good time. So you check that out. I'll leave some links in the description where you can follow L'Ariete on Twitch. And it'll be this Sunday afternoon here on the Eastern Seaboard. It'll be like at 9 p.m. in Europe, but you can check that out. I'll leave some links. I'd love to see you there. Come practice your French. It'll be a good time. What else? Oh, the Discord. Join the Discord. Come chat about pro wrestling. Link is in the description. I think I've covered everything, really. There's nothing really more to talk about other than pro wrestling. Collision, a few final thoughts before it starts this week on June 17. The G1. We're talking about WWE's business negotiations as well. Packed show. And we're reviewing Impact Wrestling's Against All Odds 2023. Thank you all for being here. Let's get into the weekly wrestling inspection without any more hesitation. We are going to start talking about, pro wrestling here. There we go. And we're even going to do this as we begin to talk about AEW Collision. So yeah, AEW Collision. It starts this week, folks. It's starting this very week, this Saturday. Why am I constantly stuck on Thursdays? What is the thing with Thursdays? What is so special about Thursdays? Every time I mess up a day, it's something about a Thursday. It's Thursday. I don't know. But we've got Collision starting this week. This Saturday, June 17, from the United Center in Chicago. It is the very first edition of AEW Collision. We know at the moment that we're recording this right now, the moment we're recording this, which is June 13th, on a Tuesday, there is but one match that has been announced so far. That is CM Punk and FTR, aka CMFTR, who have just released a shirt, going up against Samoa Joe and the Bullet Club Gold, Jay White and Juice Robinson. So that's where we're at right now. It's finally happening. It's going to be a momentous occasion. It's a big deal. Let's be honest. It's a big deal for everything that's been going on for AEW, and it's something. I don't know if people remember how far back we have to go talking about this. Remember when AEW was talking about adding the third hour of programming, and that turned out to be Dynamite, and then it's like, oh, we're going to keep on adding more programming. We got. This has been a discourse, a story that's been, going on for a while, and it's coming to a rather substantial culmination right here, happening this week. So, unfortunately, we don't have much to preview outside of this main event, right? There's no matches to break down. There's nothing that we can say, oh, well, this is going to happen. We should look forward to this. Like, the show's essentially a mystery. And I think it's pretty clear that unless there's some incredible, bold level of booking that happens, I think it's pretty clear that CMFTR are going to be picking up the win here. When the opposite would seem a little odd to me at this point. But I think there's a lot of questions that you can have. Is like, will CM Punk start off the show? Will he be there with a live mic, and will he air some grievances? I mean, look, it is CM Punk with a live mic. To a degree, I'm surprised that we got this far without things falling apart any more than they are right now, or they did, I should say. But it's like I'm still very curious as to what they're going to actually physically do with old Punker outside of the match, right? And I think the match is there by design. I think a lot of people, and I believe I talked about it. I don't know. I can't remember when I talked about it. I talked about it last week, or on the Going Broadway members only stream that we do on Fridays. I don't quite remember when I talked about it, but I think it is I think it's clear to me that they didn't put Punk in a singles main event because he's broken. And I don't think you want to break him out the gate, right? Let's just be, if we're being completely honest with each other, he's injured. He's been multiple times injured. He's been multiple times injured over the span of 18 months that he was in AEW. Still is, I should say, while he was still active. It's been more than 18 months at this point. You know what I mean. There's going to be some smoke and mirroring. Dax and Cash are going to, they're going to handle, most of the work until we get a hot tag from CM Punk and lands to go to sleep. And everyone's going to get a big pop, and everyone's going to get really excited. And yeah, there'll probably be a triple sharpshooter spot, and everyone will be really happy and go home happy. And that's all right. That's what it should be. Hey, Pluggo! Nice to see you and welcome. So, it's fine. I've in my haunts and my little outlets and discussions, I've, the word that's been going around is that next week's Collision, since we're already thinking that far ahead, next week's Collision would likely be main evented by CM Punk and Jay White, which I guess is a fun little thing. I think it's okay, but I think it also demonstrates, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me flip it this way. Imagine how great it would have been, how this main event for Collision would have been if Jay White had not been booked like just another Joe Schmo on the roster and had been brought in like a top guy, feeling like a top guy, acting like a top guy, looking like a top guy, as opposed to whatever it is he does now, but I digress. Like in a vacuum, in a void, CM Punk versus Jay White is an outstanding kind of holy shit, they're doing this match kind of thing. But it would probably have a lot more cachet if Jay White had still been with New Japan at this point, because right now, I don't blame anyone for just shrugging their shoulders and going like, who is this Jay White? Like anyone who's watching AEW and has cursory knowledge of Jay White in New Japan, and that they could be just shrugging their shoulders going, who is this Jay White fella? Why is everyone making such a big deal out of him? He's just a guy kind of thing. And I can't blame you. I can't blame you for thinking that. That makes sense. Anyway. So that's what we have to look forward to, right? Of course, there's around the whole story here with the with Collision. Of course, is the tale of CM Punk selling tickets, right? The draw. That was the thing, and I myself, that was the thing that I was focusing in on when he was when they were announcing his return. I was like, well, will he be able to push these tickets? Will he be able to move things forward? Will he be a draw, as everyone sort of hopes and to a degree expects him to be? Right now, let me pull this up here. The United Center right now has distributed 8,437 tickets. This is according to WrestleTix and their latest update, which was yesterday, the 12th. 8,437 tickets out of a setup of 10,214, which is, here's the thing, 10,000 setup for the United Center is like what? 7,000 less than what was done, right? I think that's the thing. I mean, it's not as great as the First Dance was. But then again, you'll never get something like the First Dance in regards to CM Punk ever again, right? Because that was special. It was a historical moment to a degree. It was something you will not be able to reproduce. No matter how much Tony tried to drip information to us, drip feed us is what I'm trying to say. No matter how much, he tried to play the same game as 2 years ago, where the name CM Punk was never uttered in the promotion of the first Rampage, but yet everyone expected him to be there, and he did show up. Despite all of that, despite him, Tony Khan trying to do it this time, he will not be able to recreate that. And I think he understood that fairly quickly. We've talked about it, but I think he did understand fairly quickly, and that's why he announced CM Punk was going to be there ahead of time. He announced the first match ahead of time so that people could get excited, so that we could get some some buzz around it because there was a lot of tickets to sell. Now they have less than 2,000 tickets to sell to get to 10,000, right? To hit, if we're pulling up an arbitrary, round number, they've got less than 2,000 tickets to sell to get to 10,000. Now, what does this say to me? Well, it says to me that CM Punk is still a draw in Chicago. There's no big surprise there, but he can still move these tickets in Chicago, and he's still going to move these tickets to a degree that it's going to probably be the biggest live gate for a TV show for an AEW TV show since January 11 at the, is that right? Yes, at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, where they did 9,600 distributed on a show that had started off with practically nothing. I think there is something to say here in that regard, that CM Punk in Chicago can still move tickets, and this is going to be a very good gate for AEW, and they have to be happy about it. It's going to be a successful gate because look, recent gates have not been all that fantastic. We're around 4,000, 4,400, 4,600. We had a bit of a bump here in Detroit where they did 7,200. But we're mostly hanging around the mid 4,000s to the 3,000s. Like, we're not it's not insane, crazy ass numbers here. There's no gravy train right now with AEW. So if they're going to hit 10,000 or close to this weekend on Collision for a brand new show that is completely unproven, I think they should be happy about it. And it does show that Phil does have some gumption, does still have some draw power. Now, does this draw power extend everywhere else? No. I think that this is an important distinction to make nonetheless. Is that right now, there are multiple shows, especially those in Canada, which are not looking great. And in some circumstances are absolutely dismal. Give you an example. We're talking about before we flipped on the podcast switch. We're talking here live about the Collision in Toronto the day before Forbidden Door on June 24. That show currently has 1,871 tickets distributed. Currently set up for 3,445, 3,445, again, according to WrestleTix. Whereas the very next day, the Scotiabank Center is sold out. So that's not necessarily fantastic. It's not necessarily good news. Of course, everyone talks about, with reason, everyone's talking about the Hamilton, Ontario Collision, which only has still, as of yesterday, 883 tickets sold out of a setup for 3,083. That's ridiculous. Like, that is bad. And there's no possible spin you can put on this. It's just bad. Regina, 1,300 tickets so far. The Saddle Dome in Calgary, 3,500. I would expect that, and only 4,481 set up for that show, and I would feel that should go up. The Scotiabank Saddle Dome is it's a huge arena. It's a hockey arena. So, like, even just the setup at 4,400 is kind of dismal. But I feel like as the Owen starts kicking in, as more promotion starts kicking in, around the Owen, I would expect at the very least that these tickets will start popping. And we come back to the United States. Come back to the United States on July 22nd. 4,378 at the Prudential Center, excuse me. That's, again, 5,900 is the setup right now. It's good, but it's still another big basketball arena. Like, I don't know what the issue is with Collisions right now, because they're not drawing well. And I think this is an indication, but I'm not like outright murdering the guy, but I think it is an indication that our boy Phil here isn't necessarily the guy that has everyone running to the ticket counter to buy as many tickets for them and their friends as possible. I don't think he's pushing as hot as much as a lot of people believed he would. But I also have, and because I've mentioned this, and I think it is an important part of this equation nonetheless, and I'm trying to say too many things at once, but the theory that I have is that the drip feed of Tony Khan in regards to what Collision was going to be, I think that was a bad decision that ultimately ended up muddying the waters and creating an environment of uncertainty in the minds of wrestling fans who might have been excited to buy a ticket to go see an A-rated show. The whole thing around not announcing CM Punk at the upfronts, then, which is still a little muddied, there's still, the reasons why they did it is maybe not entirely clear, but there's a lot of suppositions. There's things that seem very clear as how they were handled, but the decision to take CM Punk off of the upfronts, I think, was weird. The decision for Tony Khan to say next week we've got something great to announce for 3 weeks straight was a little weird. And I really do feel like he thought the allure of CM Punk would carry, into high levels of ticket sales without doing much promotion, but it's not the case. Clearly. Especially on something that was unproven like Collision. Because look, the Dynamites are doing fine. I wouldn't say they're doing outstandingly great business, but again, if we take the Hamilton, Ontario comparison, 5,278 tickets for Dynamite on the Wednesday, 883 for Collision on the next day, because AEW fans know that Dynamite is the flagship. That's the one you don't want to miss. What the fuck is Collision? Couple that onto the fact that there's no national distribution for Collision in Canada. We're going to have to watch it on the goddamn TSN Plus app. Parentheses for all of the non-Canadians listening, because I know there's a lot of you. TSN is essentially our ESPN here, right? It's the sports network, TSN. And they have a streaming VOD service. I don't know what the hell you want to call it, that you get with your subscription when you subscribe on your cable machine, but it stinks. It stinks. And the video on demand stays like for a week. Like you miss a Rampage, you can't rewind it. Let's say you arrive late to a Rampage, you can't even backtrack on it. Like, it is a bad app. And this is how we're gonna, we already had to suffer through Rampage on this shit. And now we're going to get Collision. That's going to be on this as well. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I wasn't expecting TSN to be like, yeah, we will reserve Saturday nights for your professional wrestling program. We will set adrift Saturday night hockey matches during the regular season, which is a tradition in Canadian homes. Yeah, we're just gonna preempt all of those so that CM Punk and Samoa Joe and Andrade El Idolo will have their time to shine. Like, I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. But then again, TSN has 3 or 4 sub-networks? TSN 2, 3, 4, something like that. You're going to tell me that, really, there was no way to squeeze this on TSN 3 or whatever? What's on Saturday nights on, TSN 3? Like the World Series of Poker? Like, what the fuck? Like, who cares? Anyway, that was my minuscule TSN Plus rant, but that's the point. The point still being that there's no proper distribution in Canada of this shit. So of course people are weary about it. Why wouldn't they be? Why would they not be weary about this? Be a little on their guard, going, I'm not quite sure about this. I'm not quite sure about this, Warren. I'm not sure I'm going to go see AEW 2 nights in a row. You know what they're going to have to do? The people who are going to go into Hamilton on the Wednesday, they're going to have to give those people one hell of a deal. It's like, hey, bring your ticket stub, your Dynamite ticket stub tomorrow to the show. We'll give you a 70% discount or something. Like some deep discount like that. Anyway. This was all, where was I, I lost my original point. That's it. So, okay. So the Collision's not drawing, I think it is a combination of things. I think it is a combination, first and foremost, of bad marketing for it. At the upfronts, you just go right ahead. You just jump right in. You say, CM Punk is going to be here. TNT raves about it, and it gets everyone excited. And then it bleeds over into more consciousness because not everyone is on fucking Twitter. And then everyone gets excited about it. Like, all right, cool. Then CM Punk comes back and then everything sort of rolls. Because right now, all this is demonstrating is that CM Punk doesn't have the chops anymore. That's what this is. Because even on the promise of CM Punk being at a show, it is not enough for your regular AEW fan to be like, yeah, let's do it. Not compelling enough. There's going to be something AEW fans are more like, okay, what else you got? Because the CM Punk allure, the first year of CM Punk returning, that's done. Is there such a thing as punk fatigue? Well, you can ask, Queen of the MrWarrenHayes show, Kristen Ashley, about punk fatigue. And I think that is a thing. I think it is a thing, particularly with people who are very much online and follow wrestling like all of us do. I don't know how much it translates, but I don't know how much it translates into the casual, quote unquote, fan, the less online fan. But I would say that even the less online fan is maybe not as compelled to jump into a CM Punk environment blindly. It's more like, okay, and maybe, we've been taught a lesson with Rampage. Maybe it's like, you know what? Rampage was a good show for a while, and we were told this was not going to be a B show, and now it absolutely is a fucking B show, and it has been a B show for a while. So maybe maybe AEW fans are a little more on their guard. Maybe they're a little more guarded and they're like, you know what, maybe we won't give Tony all that big of a break here because, he sort of poo-pooed on us a couple of times here with this Rampage nonsense. I mean, I think this all makes sense. So what should we be looking forward to moving forward? I'm glad you asked. I believe it would be my instinct to believe that as Collision airs on television and is able to maintain the same level of quality and expectation as we have with Dynamite, maybe become must-see viewing. If we are able to maintain that, I will see I think it will be safe to say that ticket sales will improve. I think that's and I would expect that to happen, but it will 100% depend on whether the show is good or not. That's because it's not just going to be CM Punk showing up that's going to save Collision, because it's not doing good business right now. It's not doing great business for AEW. It's another thing. And look, I don't know what the overhead is, but I'm pretty sure that $1,200, $1,800 paid, distributed for a show doesn't exactly equate to big balls of money and revenue, return on investment for AEW. We are now going to talk about WWE's rights. They have rights, people. Like you and me. No. The rights, media rights. Not human rights. Corporations are not humans. But the media rights. We got a little update this week. We have some news. We had some fresh news coming out a couple of weeks ago, right? If you remember, last time I think we really did talk about this. Nick Khan was on a press tour, if you recall, and he was telling people right and left, how the exclusivity window for negotiating with NBC Universal had closed and was soon to shut down with Fox. Well, now across the board, slice, it's done. Exclusive negotiations? No way, pal. That shit can hit the bricks. Because as it stands right now, WWE can negotiate with whomever they want. The exclusive windows are closed. The news was first reported this week by Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, saying that the exclusive WWE TV rights negotiating windows for both Fox and NBC Universal have closed, and the company can now officially solicit interest from the rest of the broadcast and streaming world. The exclusive period began during WrestleMania weekend in April and late May, while NBC Universal still had some time. While Marchand noted incumbents traditionally remain favorites, of course, very clearly here, very specifically talking about NBCU and Fox. The sources have indicated to him that Disney has shown interest for FX as opposed to ESPN, since ESPN can't guarantee a specific night per week due to sports. Marchand also stated that Amazon Prime Video will be in talks. This is a quote, by the way. Amazon Prime Video will be in talks for WWE, and you can see how it fits in their strategy, unquote, since they already have the NFL on Thursday night games, and they've been bidding for college football Big Ten conference games as well. Marchand also noted that he considers both Apple and Warner Bros. Discovery as dark horse candidates due to their NBA pursuits. And we got this little bit of information here, which should come really to no surprise. But nonetheless, quote, one nugget I was told, Marchand speaking, of course, one nugget I was told that may interest wrestling fans is that Warner Bros. Discovery does not have to stay exclusive to AEW. It would be something if it got in on WWE, but I don't see it yet. So that was very interesting, very, very interesting developments on that front. I don't think anyone is particularly surprised that WWE is going a little harder with Amazon Prime Video. I think that makes a lot of sense. But moving forward here, we also have some extra little news here, courtesy of our boy Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics. Of course, you know, if you look, you have two choices, right? When it comes to following the business of pro wrestling, you know, if you want to get educated about it and understand how things works, ratings and media deals and so on and so forth, you got two choices. You can follow WrestleNomics, or you can listen to, you know, weirdos on Twitter. I would highly recommend following WrestleNomics and subscribing to their Patreon, because it just like, because it's just fantastic coverage. This is we got, of course, Brandon Thurston gave a little more in-depth insight into all of this, which of course is fantastic here. The exclusive window for NBCU and Fox have both ended now, according to the report. He's referencing Andrew Marchand here. The NBCU window for Raw expiring is new. Last month, Nick Khan said the Fox window had expired. Oh, I got them mixed up. I apologize. I had them confused. I had flipped them around. Apologies for what I said previously. It was the Fox window that had expired first, but now the NBCU one being closed is new information. Now, we have some Brandon here adds some information regarding FX and its range. FX and USA Network are in similar numbers of US households, nearly every cable home. FX is just slightly ahead with 73.3 million homes, and USA in 72.4 million homes as of June. So look, I mean, it's very much basic, right? It's basically the same thing. The exciting part here is FX is owned by Disney, right? A lot of people still think like this is a Fox thing, but Fox sold FX and, you know, a bunch of other assets to Disney a few years ago. So it would seemingly add another bidder into the competition for WWE live rights, along with the incumbents, as well as possibly Amazon. WWE Raw or SmackDown on FX could assist with synergies between WWE and UFC when the merger is finalized, because Disney owns all live rights for UFC. And I hadn't realized that before reading this part. So this is very, very interesting. And I think Brandon points it out a little later, but it's very interesting because there's a lot of talk about taking, once the Peacock deal is up, which I believe is in 2026. Yeah, that's right. It's in 2026. Once the Peacock deal is up, there is a lot of talk that UFC and WWE could package their catalogs together and sell their content to a streamer as a bundle. So that's, you know, very interesting. Let's continue this little text here. WWE's current rights negotiations won't be shopped with the assistance of Endeavor, Nick Khan said at a conference talk in May. WWE streaming rights held by NBCU and used for Peacock expire in early 2026, though, and the renewal timing for that deal is likely after the WWE UFC merger is complete. At that point, streaming rights for WWE and UFC could be sold together, a possibility Khan seemed open to in an interview in April. Marchand also reported that Warner Bros. Discovery doesn't have an exclusivity agreement with AEW for wrestling, so Warner Bros. Discovery could potentially bid on WWE as well. So this is all fascinating stuff, and it throws a little more questions into this whole scenario that maybe it felt a little clearer a few months ago, but not anymore. FX, USA, similar range, networks, I think that, look, I believe that USA Network will suffer tremendously, and I don't want to come out here and say they're going to shut down, but they're going to suffer tremendously if they lose Raw, because Raw is the top rated show on the entire network. There's nothing that even comes close. That's what they do their most business with on Monday nights with Vince McMahon's House of Muscletude. That's what that's what they do. So I don't know. I really don't know if this is something that that's going to stick. I don't even know if USA Network is going to stick. I'm trying to say, I don't know if they're going to have like any form of survivability moving forward. What is their outlook if they lose their top rated show? Now, it could have that kind of, it could generate that kind of excitement for FX, who, I think for a while, right? For a while, I believe FX was very interested was in a scenario where they were doing a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? High-end television. Prestige TV. That's the term I was looking for. They were doing some of that. They had the bikers and all of that, and things have sort of trailed off. Like, I don't think FX is in as great a position as it once was. I really don't. So I'm wondering if this wouldn't be like a good shot in the arm for FX and would actually get people excited and interested to watch the network again. Maybe that would shoot up some numbers. Not unlike what WWE does for USA on Monday nights. I mean, the track record is there. And then if you add both, which I'd be surprised, but if you add both, and wouldn't you think that the numbers are going way, way up? I think so. Because USA has been in the mire for a while and hasn't been able to get out of it. What, like Chrisley's? Was that the other big show that they had? Chrisley's? When's the last time y'all sat down, rubbing your hands together and going, oh boy, I can't wait for some big time USA Network programming, boys? It's like, that doesn't happen anymore. I don't even know if it ever did happen. Was there a time where the network was like prime viewing that you must see TV? I don't know. I can't help but think that I can't help but think that I just completely lost my train of thought for a second here. Look, we'll move on. I'll probably get back to the point in a second. I've completely lost my train of thought here. In the WrestleNomics post, Brandon Thurston mentions that John Pollock and he had an interview, sit down with Tony Khan that they recorded yesterday, as we're recording this on Monday, and is going to be released on Wednesday. And he asked them if indeed Warner Bros. Discovery, in fact, didn't have an exclusivity for AEW, right? And Tony Khan was, as Brandon says, was non-committal, so didn't give an answer. Not to be surprised, but nonetheless, I'm excited to hear this interview that John Pollock and Brandon put together because listen, this will be an interview where no one is going to be asking, when is AEW coming back to Atlanta, or when is AEW coming back to San Francisco, or asking questions like, how does it feel to be booking, a great champion? Like, who cares? Like, this is actually probably going to be one of the most interesting. This is, at the very least, it has the potential to be one of the most informative and interesting interviews that Tony Khan will have given to wrestling media in a long time, with some meat on the bone, juicy questions, things that actually we want to know and that we'd like to understand to get a better picture of where all of this is going. So I'm excited to see how this is going to shape moving forward. But yeah, look, I mean, okay, I remember the point I wanted to make just a minute or two ago. You'd have to think, right, that if WWE let the negotiations waver go by the wayside a little bit, you have to wonder that it's either one of two things, right? Not go by the wayside, but let the exclusivity windows close to basically shop around elsewhere. It's one of two things. The first thing is that whatever was being offered by Fox and or NBCU did not achieve their expectations. And they were like, no, this is not what we want. This is not the money that we wanted. And we're going to go shop around and we're going to try and get something better. And I wouldn't be surprised that they go around, test out the market, come back with either some leverage or with their tail between their legs. Where, this is not necessarily, and I'm not saying it's automatically a bad thing. I'm saying that it's not necessarily a good thing for WWE to abandon negotiations with their exclusive partners to go shop around, because the opposite could absolutely 100% happen, where they shop around, realize they've got the same types of conditions or maybe a little worse. You never know. And have to make maybe a little more concessions than what they would have liked to. And then they go like, well, they'll either take whatever they have there, or maybe they'll go back to NBCU and or Fox, who are maybe just slightly better. That could absolutely happen. What could also absolutely happen is that they go get some massive leverage on the outside and come back to NBCU and Fox. They're like, well, look, we're ready to go because they're offering us what we want. Can you guys equate this? And maybe NBCU, all of this can be a part of a big game of chicken, right? Where NBCU goes, sure, we could. Okay, seeing that you got this amount, we'll give you this amount, kind of thing. That's how this is going to go. But it's a very interesting scenario here. And I'm very interested in seeing how Amazon Prime is going to weigh in all of this. Because I would assume that WWE is not interested on having its first run programming happen on a streaming service. I would assume that is not what they want. I would also assume that they can't do much right now to send stuff out to be streamed elsewhere because they have the deal with Peacock. And Amazon, like mentioned, by Brandon Thurston in his WrestleNomics article, they basically said, they being WWE, Nick Khan said that Amazon is looking, to get into media rights, first run media. So I'm like, maybe this is what we're going for, right? Maybe this is, maybe Amazon's not interested. That's the point I'm trying to make. Maybe Amazon's not interested in getting like second run. It's like, no, if you want to come on to our thing, we want live TV. That's what we want. We want to stream you guys live. oh, you can get it like in an hour, with a 2-hour delay after. No. So it all depends, I guess, on the willingness of WWE to go full streaming model. And I would also find it a little strange for them to want to go full streaming on Amazon now that they started up their Twitch channel again, where they're streaming like you're doing sidecasts and whatever. Like, I mean, that's something you could just throw to the mothballs again. Like, that's not a big deal. It's not as if, but again, look, I'm saying you can throw the WWE channel to the mothballs again, but they did enter a partnership with Twitch, which would imply that Twitch paid the money or WWE got some extremely advantageous conditions to stream on Twitch, the embattled Twitch platform seeking desperately to remain relevant with content creators, goes out and reaches out to WWE, or WWE reaches out to them, and they come to an agreement. You would assume that because of this partnership, WWE can't just be like, oh, well, we'll put the Twitch channel on hold for a while. Like, it doesn't make sense. As I'm talking about, like, it doesn't make sense for them to even be like, no, we can put so you have the Amazon deal. You have Twitch on the side where everyone's streaming stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. And I don't see how things connect right now when it comes to Amazon Prime or Apple TV or whoever else might be interested in this. Like, if they're not a cable TV, at bare minimum, a cable TV outfit, I don't see how WWE benefits from having their first run programming being streamed. Again, because of Peacock. If Peacock was up for grabs, like if they could just move it off the network today, I don't think there'd be an issue, but we're in 2026. 2026 is when this is happening? No, I don't understand. I really don't understand. So it's an interesting wrinkle. It's very interesting that Disney is now has entered the conversation seriously this time, as opposed to any type of speculation and it's funny because for years WWE, that's what they wanted to be. They wanted to be Disney. That's always been like an unsung goal. I think it's very interesting. So that's the latest. What's going to happen next, I don't know. But I think, like I said, there is things that are still very interesting. I would not discount, at the very least, NBCU. At the very, very least. Even if the exclusivity window is closed, because I think a network like USA has a lot to lose by losing WWE on Monday nights. Since we're talking about WWE, did you get a chance to see the field for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match? It's all put together. We have all our contestants. Everyone is involved. Santos Escobar is in it. So is LA Knight, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, Booch, and Damian Priest. And listen, as exhausted and tired as I am when it comes to fucking ladder matches, this is a good field. This is a good field for an entertaining match that can go just about anywhere. You've got great people involved in this. And people who maybe, if properly motivated, will be motivated. But this is very good. And if anything, I'm going to be looking forward to watching this match despite my ladder match fatigue. This is still good. It's a good field of people. Good crew. I think overall you've got more talent than not. Eli Drake, LA Knight. I like him. Always did. Always thought he was meant for the WWE main roster. I am not surprised in the least that he is getting over big time with the WWE crowd. That guy was made for the WWE audience. He was a perfect match. But now, putting him in here with, Escobar and Butch and Ricochet, I'm like, well, it's a different type of worker, isn't he? Because he's not a work rate guy. He's a promo guy. He's a charisma guy, body guy. Got a lot of tools to get himself over in WWE. And I know that work rate matters little for World Wrestling Entertainment and its fans to get people over. It really does. So there's no big deal here for him. But I'm excited still to see how this match comes together. Like, it's nice. It's nice to be excited for a WWE match. I don't know if excited is the right word that I'm looking forward to. I think that's a fairer assessment. Because honestly, I couldn't give a shit about Cody Rhodes versus Dominic, right? Like, who's the top heel in the company right now? It's Dominic. Y'all tell me it's Roman Reigns, but y'all stand up and point to the sky when he comes out and you acknowledge him and you cheer for him. We're going to stop pretending that he's a heel. We have to stop pretending he's a heel. This stuff here, Dominic, Cody, wasn't Cody supposed to win Money in the Bank? I was told this after WrestleMania ended. I was told, Warren, don't worry. Cody is going to win Money in the Bank and he's going to get the title at SummerSlam. That's what I was told. Cody Rhodes is nowhere to be found. He will be taking on top heel, monster heat getter, Dominic Mysterio, the greatest third generation wrestler of all time. I think, look, you want my honest and frank opinion as if I give you anything else? I believe that this is, and you can mark this on your calendar, this is going to be the beginning of the downfall of Dominic. I think people are going to get exhausted by Dominic from this point on. I think Cody Rhodes is going to carry that kid to the best fucking match of his life. And we know Cody can do it. That's not the issue. But I think from this point on, it is a downward trajectory. What else do you want to do with Dominic moving forward? And he can't hang around Rhea forever. And I will even go as far as to say this. I think he is a detriment to Rhea. I think he's bad for Dominic. I think Dominic is bad for Rhea. And they have to separate her away. Because right now, Rhea is probably the best pushed person on the entire roster. Especially when it comes to their champion. She comes in and she ruins her competition. She doesn't just come in and wrestle a match. She doesn't come in and beats them. She ruins them. She's dominant. Everything that you should be doing with Rhea Ripley, they're doing it right. Except for the Dominic bullshit. And it's like, oh. I know people like this ironically, and they don't really hate Dominic. They boo him because they've been commanded to by WWE production. And it's not like everyone does it like, hey, boo, hey, Dominic. That's the thing. Mark my words. Cody is going to get a hell of a match out of the kid. He's going to get a hell of a match out of the kid. And maybe this is the match that will make me into a Dominic believer. Because I'm going to watch this pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. Oh, excuse me. PLE. I'm going to watch it. Especially it's like what, at 3 p.m.? Because it's going to be in the UK. Are you kidding me? Nice afternoon on July 1st. Be perfect. And okay. And before we move on, before we get to the Q&A here for the live stream, here's my prediction. You want a prediction? Do you want a prediction? I'm going to give you a prediction for next year's WrestleMania. Okay, are you ready for this? I'm going to give you a prediction. What is it? June 13th. I was going to ask what day it is, and I've been saying it all through. Here's my prediction on June 13, 2023. Roman Reigns versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will happen at WrestleMania 40. I believe with my whole heart that it is going to happen. And I can give you my logic behind it. It was reported earlier this week that the first season of the brand new XFL lost $60 million. It's far from profitable. The Young Rock show on NBC canceled after 3 seasons. The boy shine, Dwayne's shine as an undeniable box office star has taken a hit with the Black Adam stuff and the DC, shake-up, DC cinematic universe shake-up that happened afterwards and all that drama. He's taken a hit. Our boy, The Rock, everyone's fave, is not as bulletproof as he once was. He won't be able to put on a tattered gray t-shirt and run around in the jungle anymore and instantly start printing money. So, I believe he's going to be on an image rehabilitation tour, and there will be nothing better for him than to reconnect with the people who truly and deeply love him, who will always stand by him, WWE fans, as he enters the ring and gets and fights Roman at WrestleMania 40. I believe last year, 39, I know everyone was like, look, I had even done, I was, part of a prediction show at some point. Was it a prediction show? No, it was a discussion. And people will, the legitimate question was, Warren, who do you think should face The Rock at WrestleMania this year? And I'm like, The Rock's not going to be at WrestleMania this year. What are we even doing? What are we talking about? But his projects, they all took a hit. Publicly, his untouchable, squeaky clean public image also got buffed a little bit. Scuffed, I should say, not buffed, scuffed. I think he's gonna be back, and he's gonna do the match with Roman, and people are gonna be really excited. Look in the chat, we're saying, just as a joke, Vin Diesel. There's no mistake that he's coming back to the Fast and Furious franchise after that very, very public, very, ugly falling out, and then suddenly he's coming back. Okay. All right. This guy's no dummy. He understands how public image works. He understands it. So my prediction, and I'm completely on board with this, as of June 2023, Rock and Roman, WrestleMania 40, it's a thing. It's going to happen. And he's not going to win the Royal Rumble. There's not going to be any nonsense like that. And I'm not saying Warren, are you saying Cody's not going to finish the story? I wouldn't be surprised, but that's not what I'm saying. Because you can absolutely do Rock versus Roman on night 1 and Cody versus Roman on night 2. You can absolutely do that. The Rock's not winning the World Universal Disputed Champion. Like, that's not gonna. Yeah, if he shows up on the on the WAG picket line and actually supports them, he will have so much love. Exactly. Anyway, just a few WWE thoughts. Just like that. So, I don't know if you heard, but the G1 33 blocks were announced. Oh, baby. I am so stoked for the G1 this year. It's ridiculous. And it's all because of the Best of Super Juniors and everything that they're doing with the young guys. It's exciting stuff. Folks, what are we doing? 4 blocks of 8 guys. 4 blocks of 8 guys, which is a shame. It's a shame because look, I talked about it last week a little bit. I'm sorry, Joseph. I hadn't noticed that you had a question. I'm very sorry. And I can't go back. I'm sorry. We'll save it for next week. We'll do it again next week. I'm sorry. But the blocks here. Here's the thing with the blocks. Like I said last week with the field, actually, with all these dudes, it's too much. Too many people. I think, like, I understand what Gedo wants to do here, what New Japan wants to do. They want to put as many young guys forward. That's fine. They want to do as many of this as possible. Again, that's fine. But listen, 32 people again this year. I found covering last year's G1 to be a little rough, and it's tough to get some predictions, but look, we'll get into it. I would have preferred a much leaner G1 than this. Much leaner. But I understand at the same time what they're doing here. So this is what we got. Block A is going to contain Sanada, current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, of course. With him, Chase Owens, Hikuleo, Ren Narita, Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Gabe Kidd, and Kaito Kiyomiya. The only 2 people who have been in a G1 on a previous occasion are Sanada and Chase Owens. Hikuleo, Narita, Umino, Tsuji, Kidd, Kiyomiya. 6 newcomers in the block with Sanada. Block B, Kazuchika Okada is our boy here, leading the block, along with Yoshihashi, Taichi, Kenta, Great-O-Khan, Will Ospreay, Tangaloa, and El Fantasmo. Block C will contain David Finlay, Tomohiro Ishii, Evil, Tama Tonga, Shingo Takagi, Aaron Hanare, Eddie Kingston, and Mad Mikey Nichols. Whereas Block D will contain Tetsuya Naito, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Hiroki Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Toru Yano, Jeff Cobb, Shane Haste, and Alex Coughlin. So that's our setup here for the blocks, which will lead us to, we're actually going to get quarterfinals, semifinals, as well as the finals on top of that. The runners-up, the winner and runner-up of each block is going to move into the quarterfinals. Each match, 20 minutes. As I mentioned last week, that's a good thing. For a guy like me, who's going to watch everything, 20-minute time limits are great, and it's going to be advantages for a bunch of wrestlers as well. A few wrestlers, not maybe a bunch, but a few wrestlers in the G1. It's not enough withstanding. And we are going to get 8 matches per night until August 5th, when it becomes singles blocks. Of course, this is all starting on July 15. That's the first night. July 15 and 16 are the opening salvos for opening blocks. So like I said, if we start breaking this down a little bit, we've got 6 debut entrants on the A block, as we mentioned, which, you know, everyone was sort of salivating at the idea of having one block being composed of young guys, and then having Kazuchika Okada, bitter asshole Kazu right now, being there just to smack the shit out of all of them. But instead we're getting Sonata. I have mixed feelings about Block A. And the basic mixed feeling that I have is that it is Sonata, your top guy vet, who will be guiding these dudes along, who will be helping out Hikuleo get a good match, who'll be guiding Narita and Umino and Gabe Kidd. You know, like, I think there's something different here. There's something different in saying, no problem, substitute Sonata and Kazuchika Okada, and I'm having a completely different conversation right now. I'm telling you how Okada is going to take all of these guys and he's going to bring out the best in all of them, and he's going to still be an asshole, and he's still going to beat them all, but he's going to guide them so that every one of these 6 newcomers all have their shine, all have their time in the sun. And I don't think Sonata's that guy. I don't think Sonata's a guy who can do that. My patience with world champion Sonata is wearing thin right now. We haven't had this conversation yet, I don't think. But my patience with him is wearing thin. I'm not into it. I'm not convinced it's working. People are pointing like, well, he's drawing good gates. Drawing good gates, but we're not back to pre-pandemic levels. Now, if we had done Dominion, and Dominion had drawn like 12,000 people, 13,000 people, 14,000, like we're getting into pre-pandemic numbers, then I'd be like, okay, we've got something with Sonata here, but we don't. It's better than during the pandemic, and God, I hope so, but we're not at pre-pandemic levels. So we're going to pump the brakes on the Sonata glory here. I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it. And look, again, between us both, what were his 2 big matches that he had recently, right? He had Duntaku against Hiromu, and he had Dominion against Tsuji, right? Duntaku, he steps in the ring with Hiromu. Who is the audience cheering for? They're all behind Hiromu. And you can spin this any way you want. That crowd was behind Hiromu Takahashi. His match with Yota Tsuji, a guy who came out of nowhere that people barely remembered. He comes back from excursion, puts on a hood, starts smiling, and people were behind him. They wanted him to win. They wanted him to beat Sonata. There's something not working the way we were hoping. I'm just saying. Back to the A block. I think there's a lot of interesting things here, but again, I don't even know how this is going to be advantageous for Sonata. How is Sonata going to look like a big time champion? How is this going to help elevate him as a top guy and as a champion if all he does is beat all the new guys? Because you know he's winning the block. We're not going to be stupid here, are we? He's winning the block. At the very least, maybe some last minute drama where he's the runner up. But he's advancing. My point is, he's advancing to the quarters, right? The only other guy here that I'm like, that would make sense is Kiyomiya. We're going to talk about him in a second, trust me. But Kiyomiya, why would you have Kiyomiya in the G1 if it's not to give us the Okada rematch? And I'm asking sincerely. Because you saw the reaction, or you heard the reaction, when Kiyomiya was announced at Dominion as being a part of the G1. Huge pop. Huge. That'll work for the Japanese crowd. That I have confidence in it being a drawing match. But my point here is that he's going to go through all of these guys, most of these guys anyway. He being Sonata. But they're all newbies. They're all rookies. They're all guys who just, they just lost. A lot of them just got rid of the little black boots, I don't know what's the benefit for Sonata to go through everyone in this block here. Okada has the story to go. Again, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it's Okada, because Okada has the story of hating all the kids. Okada's in pure fuck them kids mode. So you'd be rooting for him to beat everyone up, right? To a degree. That's a story. That's interesting. That's fun. And he doesn't have anything to prove. It's fucking Kazuchika Okada. Block B is an interesting one. That's Okada's block. You've got Taichi in there. You've got Will Ospreay in there. You've got Phantasmo in there. So we're getting another Okada Ospreay match, which you could give me any day of the week. That's outstanding to me. And I'm curious to see how this is going to continue developing, because Will's story is that he never wins the big matches, right? He could never beat the big guys, the big stars. That's where he is right now. So Okada's going to have a good tournament, of course. I think Taichi might actually turn up. I think that's what we're getting, right? We're getting Okada and Taichi on night one, and I'm super stoked for it. Right? Let me just double check here. Block B. No, we're getting Kazu and Great Khan on night one. Apologies. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But when that does happen, it's going to rule, like, regardless. That's a match I'm really excited to see. But see here, El Phantasmo in here is going to be a bit of a dark horse. This is going to be the guy. This is a guy that Gedo could actually absolutely book in one of these positions where he loses a few opening matches. But then next thing you know, he's all over the place. And he's scoring, and he's scoring tiebreakers left and right, kind of thing. He's got a pretty even tournament to start off, right? On night one, he's got Yoshihashi. Night 3 is Okada. Great Khan on night 5. Tongaloa on night 7. And Kenta on night 9. So you could make an argument that El Phantasmo should beat everyone except Okada. Then we get Taichi in night 11, and then he ends up against Will Ospreay on night 14. And I think that's very telling. That means that El Phantasmo is going to be a player as we creep towards the finals. Because look, Okada's got Tongaloa on the final night of regular block action. That's a no-brainer there. Like, Okada is, at this point, he will have secured his position in regards to moving forward, right? Taichi and Great Khan could be, like, legitimately, Phantasmo Will Ospreay is going to be the match that most of us will be looking forward to. That will be the one that will have the most questions, essentially. What the hell is going on, kind of thing. What's going to be the next, what could the possible outcome be here? It's going to be a very interesting one, and one that has the potential for the most big time 5-star matches. Don't sleep on Taichi at all. Ospreay is who he is. El Fantasmo can pull it out. Okada will be great. C block is going to be the violent block. This is going to be the block of people who just want to beat the shit out of each other, and I'm completely here for it. Finley's going to continue down this trajectory of being the Savage, and I think it has to be a crucial moment for him as well. And I think he knows it. This is going to be such an important moment for him to just be the absolute Savage that he says he is. It's going to be so crucial for him. Look, we got Ishii and Eddie Kingston here. I can't remember who told me. It's like Eddie Kingston would probably die fighting Tomohiro Ishii, and he'd be okay with it. Shingo was in here as well. Like, you know, everyone's talking about Ishii and Kingston, but Takagi and Kingston, what are we even doing? This is going to rule. And you don't think Aaron Henare and Eddie Kingston is not going to rule? Henare's fantastic. Henare, so many people sleep on him. But we've got so much potential for just hard-hitting. This is good. This is the hard-hitting fighting spirit block right here. I am so stoked for it. And we got Evil in there. And then the D block. The D block is the vets. It's the old guard. It's Tanahashi, Naito, Goto. Weird to say Zack Sabre Jr., but that's what this is here. It's a fine little block. This will be a very interesting block to follow to see, if only to see what they do with Hiroshi Tanahashi, who has had very poor G1s. The past 2 G1s for him have been poor. Not unremarkable, not bad, poor. 22nd consecutive G1 for the Ace. And I think we're wrapping it up. I think this is the story they've been telling with Tanahashi, and I think this is going to be another G1 where, not unlike what they did with Kushida, where it's just like he cannot keep up anymore. He can't keep up with how things are evolving in New Japan now. There's not that there, you know, this is not the young guy block. Alex Coughlin isn't here, which I wouldn't be surprised at all. When is Coughlin fighting? Let's see here. What on the first night of D block? Hiroshi Tanahashi's taking on Goto. That's a safe start. But don't be surprised if Alex Coughlin beats Hiroshi Tanahashi on their block night. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. So the blocks are really interesting. As we get closer, we're going to start previewing maybe a little more in depth, getting into it, a lot deeper, and what's going on night per night. Because there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of things that are very, very interesting, especially when you start looking at the final nights. The final night starting on August 5th. Seeing who's being paired up with who on those final nights. Narita and Kiyomiya for Block A, for instance. That's going to be an interesting one to see. Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd. And Sonata and Chase Owens are going to be on the last night of Block A action, which I find curious, right? We talked about Block B. Block C, I don't think Eddie Kingston is going to be a winner or even is necessarily going to qualify. He's fighting David Finlay on the last night, which I think is pretty much a death sentence for Kingston on that end. There's no way they're not pushing Finlay to the moon here. Takagi and Evil on the last night. And then we got Tamatanga and Aaron Henare and Tomohiro Ishii and Mikey Nichols. I think those are going to be non-issues. But I think those are going to be your 4 players for Block C. And then to wrap up Block D, Yano and Coughlin. That's a nothing match. But we're getting Tanahashi and Naito. We're getting Jeff Cobb and Shane Haste and Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. That's some very interesting pairings to wrap it all up too. So as we get closer, and don't forget, I'm going to be doing my usual annual daily G1 coverage. I say daily. I'm going to try my very best to do daily G1 recaps. Over the past couple of years that I've been doing them after every 2 nights of action. I do a wrap up. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it this year. I'm going to do my very best to provide at the very least some audio. At the very least. But we'll see what happens, because look, in the meantime, we're going to have Dynamite. We're going to have, Dynamite's going to be involved. I'm still going to do the Mr. Warren Hayes show. I'll be doing Collision reviews. First Collision review is going to be this Sunday. Don't forget. So we're all going to do that. But I'm committed because I love the G1. The G1's the best wrestling tournament of the year. So I'm going to cover it like I've done every year. And I'm going to tell you, look, maybe you're listening and you're like, Warren, I've never watched the G1. I don't know what's going on. Then subscribe to the channel. Subscribe on your audio feed for podcasts. I will guide you through it. I'll tell you what's going on. I'll tell you. But if you do have the $10 to get in on this on New Japan World and subscribe for a month or two to watch the G1, I think this is going to be a right now. New Japan is in a great moment to get into it because it's exciting, it's fresh, and there's a whole bunch of new faces that are going to shape the future of the company, and it's all happening right now. I don't think there's been a better time in a long time for people to get into New Japan. I think, and you might as well do it with G1 season, especially if you like some goddamn good pro wrestling. This is what it's all about. So you can start off and start listening to my recaps, to my reviews. And you're like, oh, Warren's really into it. I'm going to subscribe. But, oh, Warren's not really into it. I'll wait. But consider me your guide this year. It'd be my pleasure to guide you along. Especially in regards to the Kaito Kiyomiya stuff, right? If you're a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, I already talked about this on Friday, on the Saturday, I should say, on the members only stream, which we did exceptionally on Friday. But listen, I'll read this off of Post Wrestling, an article that was published on June 10, saying Kaito Kiyomiya officially withdraws from Pro Wrestling Noah's 2023 N1 Victory Tournament. The N1 Victory is Noah's equivalent answer to the G1. It's their big tournament, big singles heavyweight tournament of the year. And Kaito Kiyomiya, ace of the company, former GHC world champion, decided to go, hey, you know what? I'm not doing it this year, to focus on the G1. Here, let me read the article. The move was not a surprise. Well, here. The 2022 N1 Victory winner, Kaito Kiyomiya, will not return to the tournament this year after he withdrew. The move was not a surprise, given that the Noah star is part of the field for this summer's New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax, and there is an overlap in the schedules. Both tournaments will be running on August 6, 9, and 10. Speaking at Saturday's Noah's Sunny Voyage show in Yokohama, Kiyomiya said, quote, as a result of talking with the company, I decided to withdraw from the N1 Victory in order to focus on G1 Climax. I've come to the conclusion that I will become a G1 star. I will come back with a win. So on its surface, it's like, this is harmless, right? And Japan right now is very much in a position where everyone is sharing talent and running, shows with each other, and there's very much an environment. It's very much an environment of co-opetition right now. They're all competitors. They all want to make money, but they're all making the water level rise so that all ships rise along with it. So it's there's no real surprise that there's a guy from another Japanese promotion coming into the G1. It happens, and it happens quite frequently. There's more than enough precedent. But you know what else there's precedent for? There's precedent for a wrestler being sent to another promotion on loan from his home promotion and never returning to his home promotion. There's precedent on that quite a bit. So, and that's kind of the question that's lingering here. Is Kaito Kiyomiya, soft leaving Noah? Is he maneuvering his way into New Japan? I mean, look, from a purely business point of view, in regards to Bushiroad right now, right? The owners of New Japan Pro Wrestling, would they be comfortable right now in getting into a situation where they are, where they take away a star, a legitimate star from another company and sort of poach them away into their ranks? Despite the fact that everyone's sort of working closely together, would that be a little treacherous? Would that be a little, would that be a little backstabby of a move to pull off? I mean, you couldn't wonder, if politically that's a smart thing to do. Like I said, everyone's in a is very much in a mood where, we're all going to work together so that pro wrestling can thrive because we just came out of the pandemic. All promotions are suffering. If we all work together, this will go better. Would New Japan take advantage of this to poach one of Noah's top stars? It's a legitimate question to ask, for real. But New Japan, you can absolutely argue, has been treating Kaito Kiyomiya better than Noah has this year. Or for a while, maybe, that's a whole other discussion that maybe we're not going to get into right now, but, at least for this year. Kiyomiya comes in on the crossover show with New Japan, and he kicks then world champion Kazuchika Okada, one of the greatest of all time and, top star of the company, kicks him right in the face. And this devolves into a glorious angle, which was paid off at one of the biggest shows in Japan of the year, where, sure, Okada decimated the little punk, sure, but still is put in a position where Kiyomiya being in a position where he's working with New Japan's top guy. And this must not be lost on anyone that Okada and the office didn't decide to just pull up, work with this kid for, pure reasons out of the goodness of their hearts. It's because they saw something here. There's something here to nurture. And it goes beyond just putting on a couple of good crossover shows. No. New Japan see something in Kiyomiya. They would not be letting that kid even breathe close to Okada if they didn't think he had something to offer. And this, of course, this whole feud is what kicked off, asshole Okada for the rest of the year. This is what has done it. So it would be false to say that New Japan is just, he can come over and it'll be fine. No. They're working an angle here, and I'm not talking wrestling speak. I'm talking, they're working a way to try to get this kid onto their good side. And if you're Kaito Kiyomiya, and you see everything that's happening in New Japan right now, that they're going hard on the new kids. They're pushing the new guys straight out of Young Lion territory. They're putting Yota Tsuji in main events of fucking Dominion. They're banking on the new guys. Meanwhile, in Noah, it's still a mess. And it's been a mess for a while, and it still is. You're not quite sure what's happening. You're a 25-year-old guy, a guy that everyone sees a bright future for, a guy who can absolutely be a megastar in the business, a megastar in Japan, and maybe even beyond. The traits are there. They're undeniable. You're 25 years old. What would you do in this circumstance? What would you do? Be like, yeah. I might try this company out. The grass does look really fucking greener here on this side. It makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know who's saying, oh, he's going to be a bigger star in Noah when he comes back. He's not. That's no. He's going to be a bigger star if he stays in New Japan Pro Wrestling because they've been handling him better than they have been in Noah. And they will continue to make him look good. Like, it is preposterous to think that we're not, at some point in this G1, we are not getting the Kiyomiya Okada match back. If we don't, I think that is a sign, more than anything else, that Kiyomiya is on his way to New Japan. Because why wouldn't you, if we don't get the match at the G1, when's the next opportunity? When is the next crossover show? Maybe there won't be another crossover show. Maybe Kiyomiya will just be part of the roster. And here's the other thing. Everyone's saying, well, he signed. Do we know he signed? I don't know if he signed. And I mean this with earnestly. I don't know if he's signed with Noah. I don't know if he has a contract with Pro Wrestling Noah. A lot of wrestlers in Japan you'd be surprised. Let me rephrase that. You'd be surprised at the amount of wrestlers in Japan who work without a contract, who work for promotions on a regular basis, on handshakes and verbal deals, because the way loyalty works to the promotion is much different than here in the United States, North America anyway, where wrestlers who are treated well in their promotions and so on and so forth, that will be enough for them to stay, or at least be very cordial when it's time to leave. So they might be going around shaking hands and being, they might go around and say, look, I've got this offer to go over here. Would you be okay with that? And if the home promotion says, no, I'm not okay with that, they'll probably stay. Or they'll jump ship, and that'll cause drama, and that'll cause friction. Then it turns into good old fashioned grimy pro wrestling, and that's a whole other ball game. But usually they will turn to their home promotion and get their okay before moving elsewhere. Regardless, I know of promotions in the UK who have been the home for Japanese talent. I know of promotions in the UK who had their talent reach out to them to say, look, I'm going to work here in the West. I'm going to be working here. Are you okay with this? I'm like, sure, get paid. But that's how it works. Also, we're supposing right now, we're assuming that this is all being dealt a little backhandedly, right? That it's not above board. Maybe it is all above board and we're just not privy to the discussions. Maybe right now, Kaito Kiyomiya has his papers, he's got his pink slip and knows, like, best of luck on your future endeavors, kid. And everyone's being super quiet about it for kayfabe reasons. The next thing you know, he'll show up on New Japan and he'll be a New Japan guy. Maybe this is all, maybe at the same time, this is all being done very much above board. And we're not privy to that kind of information. Why would we? But I guess the point I'm trying to make is don't sleep on the fact that Kaito Kiyomiya is in the G1. He's not coming to the G1, I don't think, to be a bigger star in Noah. I think he is coming to the G1 to be a bigger star in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that's the nuance. And the G1 is going to be exciting. It's just one of the reasons that is making this G1 so friggin' compelling this year. All right, folks, it is time to review Impact Wrestling Against All Odds, which is a show that happened this past Friday, June 9. from the Ohio Expo Center in Columbus, Ohio. Now, I have no problems at all reviewing Impact's shows. I don't watch the weekly show because there's a lot of stuff about Impact that I find doesn't connect. And I think I connect with me. And I think I figured it out. I think it's a question of everyone has the shows that are put together have these intentions. But because of, I don't know if it's lack of energy, production, cohesion, there's always something that fails to completely click. And I feel this was a problem that was significant in this show that made me realize this is why I don't watch the weekly show. I prefer to watch their pay-per-views, their Impact Plus shows, or their YouTube subscriber, I forget what it's called. But I prefer to watch those because usually more concise, action-oriented. There's always going to be some misses. But usually there's some fantastic highs on the shows, which make them good watches. I cannot not recommend this show. I think you should watch this show. I think it's a good show because of a couple of matches that made it special, because of a couple of talents on the show that make Impact unique right now. But there's this weird counterbalance of what am I watching exactly that makes it really weird and difficult for me to get completely into. This is different from what I feel about NXT, where I think NXT is garbage. I think the presentation sucks. I think most of the people they put forward stinks. And once in a while, we're going to get a good PLE out of them. Just like Battleground, I thought was pretty good. But then you'll get a Stand and Deliver. You'll get a Halloween Havoc. You're going to be like, what the fuck am I watching? But then you'll turn around and get an Insurrection. What was it called? Insurrection. In Destruction. That new concept match that they did in February or something. January. I don't remember. I like that too. I like that match. They're uneven shows. But the thing here is that the highs on Impact on these shows here make them worthwhile. And they're short. They're short. You scrub off the pre-show. I watched the pre-show matches. I'm not even going to talk about them. I thought they stunk. But once you get into the show itself, it rolls, man. This was not a bad wrestling show, and I recommend it. You'll see why in a few. Frankie Kazarian opened up the show, defeating Eddie Edwards. This is a fine match. It was fine. Nothing special, nothing great. Good energy, though. Fun moves, but there you go. This was the thing. It lacked something. It's my very different... Because if you watch this match completely objectively, you're looking at Frankie Kazarian and Eddie Edwards, they're not slouches. And even at this stage in their career, this advanced moment, they're still so good at what they do. But we never got over a hump. There's something that just didn't click, and I can't put my finger on it. And I did that meme, the Leo DiCaprio meme. This one here, leaning forward in my seat, pointing to the screen. I was like, there you go. This is why I have trouble getting into Impact Wrestling on a weekly basis. It's because of stuff like this. Like, I see the match. The match is good. This is fine. But it just didn't click. And I have no good reason to give you. And if anyone were to tell me, Warren, this was so great, perfectly executed, so smooth, I'd be like, you're right. But I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It did not do it for me. And there was a weird sequence finish actually at the end where Kazarian they did a superplex, if I'm not mistaken, and Kazarian then on the mat tried to lace up Eddie Edwards' legs into like a roll-up position, like a surprise roll-up off the superplex. And it happened really awkwardly. And then when it happened, the ref counted to 3, but then said 2. So then the guys had to go through another pin sequence. So anyway. Then we had the Impact World Tag Team titles that were defended successfully by ABC. Once again, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, defeating the Good Hands. I thought this was a very good match. This I thought was very good. ABC, I'll tell you what. Ace Austin, Chris Bay, they're a shining spot on every show I watch, on every Impact show I watch. These guys are, they just shine through. They are on another level as far as their work goes, their presentation, their presence. They are on another level from tons of people on this show. And they've meshed into a tag team. I talk about Catch-22, Catch-22, right? TJP, Francesco Akira over in New Japan. I talk a lot about them and how they coalesced, in such 2 singles guys thrown into a tag team. And they're like, yeah, we're going to make this work. And they are one of the smoothest, best tag teams, one of the best tag teams. They're in my top 3. But Bay and Austin have been a tag team for like a year. And they're going out and doing fantastic stuff. Phenomenal. This is a team I would love to see them break out, go and have a tour, fighting other great tag teams, all the top tag teams in the world. I'd love to see them against the Bucks. I'd love to see them against FTR and Aussie Open and any iteration of the House of Black. I'd love to see them against Bishamon. Love it. These guys have been remarkably good. So I just love to see them sharpen themselves against these other guys, is what I'm saying. And the Good Hands, they're fine. They're fine. And I don't know if the name is meant to be a rib on those guys. We know what it means. It's wrestling lingo, hardy har har. And I think is the rib that, they call themselves the Good Hands, but they're supposed to be better than just good hands. Because I'm going to tell you, I think they're pretty fine pro wrestlers, but they're nothing extraordinary. They're pretty much the definition of what I consider to be a good hand. Because they're strong workers, but I'm not popping out of my seat to see them. This whole thing with Brian Myers, it's not hitting all the spots for me. The match was very good. And the Hands get some good offense in, but Bay and Austin, they're just on another level. So again, I don't know if the idea is they call themselves the Good Hands because that's what they've been called all their career. And in reality, they're much better wrestlers, but I didn't see it here. Anyway, this match was smooth, dynamic, creative. Cutter in the fold, put the Good Hands away for Austin and Bay. They're stars, man. I don't know what to tell you. And we get the dog collar match between Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly. Masha defeated Killer Kelly here. This was a complete disappointment. Complete. I was really expecting something more from these 2 women here. Especially Masha. Especially Masha Slamovich, who goes to war when she's out there hitting the indies, when she's in the ring with Rina Yamashita, just destroying each other. I'm like, let's go, dog collar, all right, baby. But it didn't rise. Nothing happened. There was a cool spot when Masha hung Killer Kelly over the top rope. The way that was all executed, I thought that was cool. But this just under-delivered. And even with Killer Kelly, I think she's much more fearless than this. It was fine, but I had higher expectations for this. Not bad, just a lingering, unattended expectation. And we had the Impact X Division title where Chris Sabin defeated champion Trey Miguel to become a 9-time X Division champion. This was fantastic. Well above their Under Siege match, which I had, if you go back and you listen to my review, the finish over there had given me the impression that there was another one in the chamber, and this was the one here. Sabin, just outstanding here. It's crazy to believe that this guy has been wrestling for almost 25 years, and he can still operate at this level. At such a high performance level. Crisp, smooth, can hang with guys like Miguel, who are in their prime, right? I'm not saying that Chris Sabin isn't, it's just like, but Miguel, like, he's still young. He's got, all the natural attributes that come with youth. We had Miguel in this match try to get a win with the cradle shock, couldn't get it done. Sabin paid homage to former X Division champions Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles by pulling out an Angel's Wings and a Styles Clash, but finally won with the cradle shock. Just good stuff. A very fantastic match. Fantastic. 9-time division champion. I believe it's a record. I enjoyed it. And Chris Sabin, like, there's wrestlers like that, right? That they just don't seem human. It doesn't seem possible to be doing this for so long and still be so fucking good. This is a great match. Got nothing to say. Other than nothing really bad to say about it. Then we get an 8-4-1 match to determine the Impact World Title #1 contender. The 8-4-1, in case you're not familiar with it, we have the match starts as an 8-man tag, and the members of the team who defeat the other team stay in the ring, and the match becomes a 4-way match to determine who is the #1 contender. So the teams were Bully Ray, Jonathan Gresham, Heath, and Nick Aldis. And the other team was Moose, Speedball Mike Bailey, Rich Swann, and PCO. And they were playing up in segments, that Bully Ray doesn't like anyone. No one likes Bully Ray. Like, it doesn't matter. And again, look, here's another show where there's a multi-man to make a #1 contender. And, I much prefer building a #1 contender as opposed to, hey, let's have a match with, 17 million people to determine the #1. I much prefer the opposite. There's exceptions, of course, like the Royal Rumble is special and it's well done and it's, whatever. But, when you start throwing this stuff together, and again, it's just a thing where a lot of guys come together and get their shit in, and don't call it a scramble, by God, but that's pretty much how it feels. That's how it comes across as. And it's a perfect example, again, of another match that just doesn't have that spark, that doesn't have that energy from everyone, except for a couple of spots. But it's like, there's too many good people in this match for me to be like, where things feel disjointed and nothing really flows. And this wasn't bad. It wasn't good either. Then we get to the final four and there's this, oh my God, there was this cringy, interminable spot where Scott D'Amore, apparently Scott D'Amore had been off of TV since being thrown through a flaming table, which I appreciate. You can, you sell the injury, right? And then he comes back there to confront Bully Ray, and he's got a chair, and Bully Ray is challenging him to swat him with the chair, and D'Amore eventually does. Weak ass chair shot. And from what I'm understanding, we're building towards Scott D'Amore versus Bully Ray at Slammiversary, and I sincerely do not know who this match is for. I do not know who this match is for. I think you have to be the most faithfulest of Impact faithfuls. What is the equivalent of a Freakazoid for Impact? Or an E-Drone? What is the equivalent for Impact Freakazoids? I don't know. But I think you really have to be so invested into this. And the spot was long. Why is this taking so long? And Bully Ray is monologuing, and I'm like, oh, okay. See, he's on his busted open thing, and he's talking about how great Roman Reigns is, and great, he's one of the greatest champions of all time. So what does he do? He goes into the ring and he monologues. He monologues just like Roman Reigns does. But he's Bubba Ray Dudley. Who the fuck cares? Nick Aldis won the match with the Clover Leaf. I don't find Impact to be particularly good at multi-man matches unless they're X Division matches. And yet there's a couple on every show. They really don't do anything for me. Deonna Purrazzo and Trinity defeated the team of Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans. This was dull. And it breaks my heart to say, but it was dull. I have no notes about the match, really. Well, I have a few. Trinity and Purrazzo have this thing where they don't get along, but they're teaming together. But they do get along because they hug and they're friends, and they do dance moves together, and they're fighting each other at Slammiversary. Nothing felt urgent and compelling in this match, and had no heat. And Purrazzo wins with La Magistrale on Evans. And Giselle Shaw is just there watching her. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Sorry, this was dull. Let's move on. 6-man tag team Ohio Street Fight, where the reunited OVE. Sami Callihan was back with his boys Jake Crist and Madman Fulton. Glad to see Madman Fulton. They defeated The Design, Diener, Alan Angels, and Khan. Good little plunder match. Nothing that I'll remember within a week. I mean, folks were excited for Madman Fulton to be back in OVE, and I think that's great. And maybe this is another question where I created an expectation for myself, where I'm like, look, the dog collar match happened, there was no blood. There was nothing at all. No. And I'm like, okay, we're going into a plunder match, and it's a Sami Callihan match. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're going to get something. And then the Design come out and they're dressed in white. And I'm like, let's go. No, I mean, Diener got a gash on his nose, but there was nothing. There's nothing other than that. I'm not shitting on the match. It was fun. It had cool spots, but it didn't hit that second gear of intensity and violence, which I think could have made it really special. Diener lands a burning hammer off the apron through a barbed wire board. Jake Crist taking that bump, excuse me. Callihan to win the match has to land a couple of cactus drivers to get the job done. Fun little match. But, where I'm like, where's the meat and potatoes here? But it was fine. It was all right. I enjoyed it. Good energy. I liked it better than the previous two matches. How you doing, Dan? Pro Wrestling Eve, good to see you. Yep, yes I am. And finally, the Impact World Title match. Alex Shelley defeated Steve Maclin in what has to be considered a surprise, right? I don't think anyone really saw this coming. And on top of that, this was an excellent match. I mean, this is one you go out of your way to watch. This was great. This was, it makes the show. Excellent main event. And not unlike his partner, right? His tag team partner, Chris Sabin. It's crazy that Alex Shelley, another 20-year vet, is operating at this level. 40 years old, slick, smooth, inventive. There's really something, and maybe it's becoming more of a norm, but since, a lot of my formative years in pro wrestling had the ceiling like at 30, 30 years old, you were over the hill when it came to pro wrestling, right? So to me, that there are wrestlers out there who still have careers into their 40s, and not just careers, come in, do a couple of spots, get paid, are still working their ass off and still feeling like they're in their prime. Like I can't look at this match and say Alex Shelley's out of his prime. He is absolutely in it. Nutrition, sports medicine, everything that has come together to allow pro wrestlers to have long careers is phenomenal. And like I said, this had to come across as a surprise. Who the hell thought Impact were going to crown Shelley? Because I wasn't. I was convinced that this was a heat vehicle for MacLeod. 100%. Whereas because the story was Alex Shelley never won the big one in Impact. Never was a world champion in Impact. Tried, failed, never was able to do it. I was like, there you go. MacLeod stomps on his dreams again. Beloved pro wrestler Alex Shelley, loved by the locker room, loved by the fans. Let's go stomp another hole into his dreams. But no, they decided to get shocking here. And Shelley worked a beautiful game. He worked limbs just to stay in control, doing float overs and transitioning move to move. Just like the kind of stuff where you're like, I lap that shit up. It's just a joy to watch. And all MacLeod could do in this match was brute force his way through it, right? It's like when you have these video games that, where you're presented with a door in a game and you can either lock pick it or you have the option to brute force through it, right? Well, that's what MacLeod was like, fuck this shit. Just barges through the door. He had to do it because it was the only way for him to keep up with Shelley. Shelley was outmatching him. He came off as a beast. Shelley survives a KIA attempt. Not just an attempt, a full, the move. He avoided it. And he starts throwing sliced breads around. Just like it's no one, just like they're, fucking clotheslines. No big deal. I'm Alex Shelley. The Tree of Woe spear backfires as MacLeod lands into an exposed turnbuckle, which that's his own damn fault, by the way. Some great back and forth as Shelley distracts and gets, not distracts, but dictates the pace right into a shell shock. And I was expecting MacLeod to retain. He didn't. And I don't think, I've seen some talk amongst Impact fans that, they did MacLeod a disservice. They jobbed him out too soon. Title reign too short. I think I found Steve MacLeod's reign to be outstanding, quite frankly. I thought it was great. He had some defining defenses, strong, powerful. Look at holy shit! Did you take the time to go watch the PCO match from the other pape from Under Siege? Because if you haven't, it's still very much something that MrWarrenHayes says you should go watch, but be prepared, kind of thing. MacLeod was developed here into a beast, into a guy for this company. I loved his run. I think his reign, as short as it is in comparison to other title reigns, elevated him. It elevated him into a serious contender, a serious guy. You cannot see Steve MacLeod in Impact in any other way now. And you can reactivate him at any moment as well, especially when Josh Alexander returns. That's really cool. And you know what? Fuck predictability in pro wrestling. Let's go. Let's go with some new creative ideas. And, I'm head over heels with what's going on in Japan right now. In New Japan. Keep me on my toes, pro wrestling. Give me more of the Motor City Machine Guns posing together in the middle of the ring at the end of the pay-per-view with each of the boys with a singles title in their hands. Give me some more of those feels. That fucking rules. And you know what? There's enough that's been laid out here where I can't say for certain that Nick Aldis was the new number one contender, was going to be fighting Alex Shelley at Slammiversary. At least that's where we're going, right? I can't say for sure that Nick Aldis is going to win. Whereas with Macklin, I was like, oh, Aldis is going to win. But now, in this circumstance right here, with Alex Shelley getting the belt and being a guy, a beloved guy, and who everyone universally seems to be saying, this was an excellent match. It was such a good decision and an expected one. Everyone seems to be patting Impact on the back. I'm not so sure you go with Aldis. What will Aldis bring to the table, at least so early in an Alex Shelley run, that Alex Shelley cannot give? And I don't see it. I don't see what Nick Aldis has to give right now that Alex Shelley is not providing. I wouldn't pull the trigger on this so soon. Whereas with Macklin, I would have been like, yeah, sure. I can see it. I can see why you'd want to do that. There you go. Good show overall. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it tremendously. Well, tremendously. I enjoyed the good parts of the show are very good. Lots of lulls. Not a lot. Hang on. This is a bad wrap up, Warren. Try again. Okay, I will. Thank you. This was a good show. You will be entertained. I recommend it because the good stuff is phenomenal. It'll make you forget the humdrum stuff. And there are shining stars in Impact. Just legitimate, shining people. World-class pro wrestlers that needs to be in your rotation. You need to watch. Good little show. And you're in and out like what, 2 hours? 2.25, 2.5, something like that. The longest match on the show was the main event. 22 minutes. And, you know, there's a lot worse you can do with your time. And we're going to wrap up everything right now with the Weekly Wrestling Inspection. What's this, Dan? The problem with people in wrestling, this is from the chat here. The problem with people the problem is the people in wrestling thinking they know it all. So very few places try new things, and when many do, a lot of the fans thinking they know it all and how it should be done based on repetition of what they've seen, rip it to pieces because, quote unquote, that's not how it should be done. This is true, which is why we need more open-minded people that will absorb and try other things out. There you go. Thank you for that, Dan. And thank you, everyone, for watching to the Mr. Warren, listening to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, or watching the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you are live right now, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sticking to the very end. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video. I would appreciate that a great deal. And if you're watching on demand, a video, a like, a subscription would be great as well. And podcast listeners as well, thank you so much. 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify. Mwah. I appreciate it a great deal. I appreciate it tons. And if you were watching live tonight, I hope you appreciated the new format. We're going to, try things out. We're going to tweak things. We're going to make things even better week after week. So thank you for bearing with me tonight. And if you haven't, and if you're like, what is he talking about? What's so special about the streams? Why don't you come on over to a live stream at some point? We'd love to have you. Record every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'd love to see you here. But in the meantime, don't forget, I will be back this Thursday for another AEW Dynamite review. My very first AEW Collision review will be this Sunday as well. So there's a lot of stuff coming up here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Things But in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next time.